am actually the director of ISA-Veritas Christian Study Abroad. So we are a study abroad provider that works with CBU. So we're a separate company, but we work with CBU. I actually studied abroad with Veritas when I was a student. I went to Cusco, Peru, and which is why, if you see behind me, I have lots of alpacas back there on that shelf. I love alpacas and llamas, and Peru was a great place to go for that. So if that's you, I can help you out. Anyways, so yeah, I studied abroad in Cusco, Peru. You'll hear more about it a little bit later, but with Veritas, you actually get to do missions while you study abroad. So I got to work every day at an after-school program for kids. I played 80 days of Duck Duck Goose with them, or Pato Pato Ganso. So I promise y'all, I'm a professional Duck Duck Gooser now, and could take all of you. That's always my spiel. My number one skill I left study abroad with. I'm just kidding. I left with so many better skills than Duck Duck Goose, but that's my favorite. Anywho, so like I said, I'm the director of ISA's Veritas Christian Study Abroad division, and just get to work really closely with Garrett to get students from CBU to go study abroad on our programs. So awesome. Thank y'all for starting to introduce yourself in the chat too, and say your favorite place that you would want to travel. Feel free to just keep sending that while we're talking. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen because we have a presentation for you all to, I'm sure y'all love, you guys know Zoom better than we do at this point. Oh gosh, let me see here. Okay, one second. It's doing the whole thing where it is on 2 pages. So let me share my screen because now I can see y'all again. Okay, here we go. Are you all able to see my screen where it says CBU Signature Programs with ISA Veritas? Yeah, okay, awesome. Super cool. Sorry, I have another screen. I'm just trying to get to where I can still see y'all. Okay, Garrett, can you see the waiting room? Are you able to admit people actually while I'm presenting?
Yeah, I can, so don't worry about that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Garrett. Cool. So we're here to talk about CBU signature programs with ISA Veritas. Garrett and I have worked together to actually identify 4 locations that are really, really great for CBU students, and they're called our signature programs. So you might be wondering which programs those are. So who's ISA Veritas? I mentioned the 4 signature programs. They're signature programs in Costa Rica, in France, in Spain, and in the Czech Republic, in Prague. So we have more programs than this. Like it says here, we actually have programs in 12 countries, but today we're gonna be highlighting these 4 that CBU has identified as our signature programs to highlight. So ISA Veritas takes a traditional study abroad program that really focuses on your on strengthening and deepening your faith and giving you spiritual support and mission opportunities while you study abroad. Also, at any point, if you have questions and would like to put them in the chat, we will answer them. Or if you also want to unmute yourself, you're welcome to do that as well, and we'll help you out. Sorry, as Garrett mentioned before, this is our first one of these virtual things, so I'm babbling a little bit, forgive me. But anyway, so that's who Veritas is. So what do? We do everything. We try to make study abroad easy from the moment you decide you're interested in studying abroad all the way through. And what I really want to highlight on this is that we're there to help you every step of the way. So between everyone at ISA and with Garrett, they're in the study abroad office, we are going to be helping you through the application process. Don't worry about stressing about, oh, what forms do I need to fill out? How is money going to work? Like, we're there to help you through every step of the way. We do pre-departure orientations with you to prepare you before you go. We have on-site staff there so that once you are abroad, the on-site staff is there for literally anything you need, whether it is something big like you're feeling sick and need to know how to get to a doctor in another country, or something as small as you and your friends really want pizza tonight and you need recommendations for the best place in town that a local would recommend to go get pizza in Costa Rica. I definitely did that. Also had to ask where to buy shampoo, things like that. So they're there for anything. And then we have a team of our alumni relations team for when you return. They help you do things like figure out how to put study abroad on your resume and how to do mock interviews or things like that. You can also come back as a global ambassador and actually get paid to promote ISA and Veritas programs on CBU's campus. So we really are with you every step of the way. In fact, some of you that are maybe sophomores or juniors or seniors might have met Maddie or Colette on campus last year. They were rock star GAs who always were tabling and postering about, or always doing sessions about study abroad with ISA and Veritas. So you might have heard of them. You could totally do that after you go abroad too. Then why we do it. I want to take a second here. I mean, why we do it, the official corporate answer is because we believe spiritual support and service helps enhance your cross-cultural experience, and then it's transformative. I want to make that a little bit more personal though and tell you why I do it. Like I said, I studied abroad with Veritas, with ISA and Veritas, and I just study abroad in general. It changed my life. That's cliche to say, but it did. It was just a time in my life that I grew in my faith more in that 12-week program than I ever thought possible. Just being able to not only grow in my faith, but observe what faith looks like from a different culture. I remember the first time it clicked for me, and this might sound silly, but it was an actual light bulb moment. The first time I realized, like, oh my gosh, God, like, speaks and created Spanish, right? I'm sitting here in worship in a Spanish speaking church and I barely understand it, but oh my gosh, God does, and how glorifying that is to him. So it just was really personal to me and my faith, and I want to help other students experience that as well. So that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. Garrett, do you want to speak to why study abroad is important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of things, but from what I've experienced, just the personal growth that comes with it and being able to experience so many different perspectives, cultures, and on like a professional level as well, there's several internships I've got, and I kind of cite my international experience that helped me in the interview process. So even for like a position working for a city, that like made me stand out versus other candidates. And if there's a lot of research out there that shows that students that study abroad, they definitely have an advantage over other students that don't. Even when it comes back to academics, there's research that shows that students have higher grades than students that didn't study abroad. So for me, there's so many reasons why we do it and why I encourage students to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Garrett, for sharing that too. Okay, so why study abroad? This is a great segue into this. Some of the top reasons to study abroad, like I said, live out and deepen your faith, cultivate cultural awareness, gain a new perspective on the world and on history, flex your foreign language skills. My caveat with this is you don't have to have foreign language skills to study abroad. You will totally pick them up while you're there. All of these signature programs are in places that they speak a different language, but your classes can be in English, and that's making that you will learn some foreign language while you're there no matter what, which is really exciting. Get comfortable outside of your comfort zone. This is so true. Nothing pushed me outside of my comfort zone like studying abroad. One very minor example of that is I don't find it strange at all to like go to a restaurant by myself. I remember before I studied abroad, I was like, that's really weird. Who does that? Like who likes to be by themselves unless you're in a coffee shop? And now I'm like, no, that's totally fine. Here we go. Like, whatever, that's my side. It's a very small example. And then grow in ways you never knew possible and form lifelong cross-cultural friendships. This is so true. You'll form friendships with locals there abroad, but also with other students on the program. So you'll be studying abroad with students from all over the US. I actually still do a yearly trip with 2 girls from my Veritas program and we all live in different parts of the country and would have never met had we not studied abroad in Peru together. So let me see. And I do see one quick question in the chat that I do want to go ahead and address. Melissa's asking if this program is open to online doctorate students. I will say this program is undergrad study abroad. That being said, if you would like to do it, You can, but you just might not get credit for it. But we won't tell you no, but it is undergrad. So definitely work that out with your own advisor. Also, same goes for master's students. Let me see here. Okay, 2 truths and a lie. This is where you can either use the chat or you can unmute yourself, take your pick, but which one of these is the lie? Many students don't have time to study abroad. Only certain majors can study abroad, and you cannot use financial aid to study abroad. Which one do you think it is? A, B, C, or D? Anybody? Matthew says C. I'm watching the chat. All of them are the lie. Let's see. Trick question? Okay, awesome. Y'all are so right. It's totally a trick question. Way to go. If I could give you candy in like a normal info session setting, you would have won the jackpot by now. But again, Zoom, I'm so sorry. You get a gold star, a virtual gold star. They are all lies. Many students don't have time to study abroad, but we work really hard to make sure that to fit it into your schedule. There are summer options, there are intensive month options if you only want to go for 4 weeks, or you could go for a semester. My personal recommendation is that the longer you go, the better, just because you really get to feel like a local in that country. But we're going to work with you to make it work to your schedule as best as possible. Only certain majors can go abroad. Again, that's not true. There are certain locations that are better for some majors than others, but Garrett and I would love to work with you to find the right place for you and for your major, whatever that major is. And you can't use financial aid to study abroad. That is a lie too. I will say, and Garrett can speak to this more in a little bit, your institutional aid specific to CBU does not go abroad with you. However, any financial aid you receive through FAFSA can, as well as we also have a lot of scholarships that you can apply for too. So let's see. So what does Christian Study Abroad look like? At the basis of the program, you have an ISA program. So let me just give you a brief breakdown on what ISA and Veritas means. ISA is actually a very large secular study abroad program provider that has a division that is the Christian division of Veritas. So when you study abroad, you'll actually not only be with other students on the Veritas programs doing the Christian program, but you'll also be with students on the larger ISA program. So even more opportunities to make friends, to have more people around. So at the basis, it's an ISA program. That means you're taking the same courses that the ISA students are taking. You're in the same housing, which is sometimes a homestay. Actually, for all of these, it's a home. Nope, some of them are a dorm. Some are homestays. Same cultural activities and excursions, but we add on to that you actually get a mission mentor while you're there. So that's somebody on staff who's working in ministry in that city. Sometimes they are locally from that country. Sometimes they are from the US but live there as missionaries. Sometimes they're from a completely other country that live there as missionaries. For example, our mission mentor last year in South Korea was actually a missionary from Pakistan, but she is living in South Korea and working with our students. And so you'll have a mission mentor who's there to meet with you weekly for a small group or Bible study. They help you get involved in the local mission work and in the local church and things like that. You do also have mission work opportunities while you're abroad. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Well, I'll go ahead and mention it now. You know, in Costa Rica, students are doing some anti-sex trafficking ministry there, as well as working in an orphanage there. In Prague, they're doing some sports ministry, some campus outreach, a lot of homeless ministry. In Sevilla, they're working at an English language school, so teaching English there in the city through the church. Any of your education majors, they love that, but you don't have to be an education major to do that. And then in Paris, it is a lot of refugee ministry. So they're actually working with populations of people who are refugees from Senegal living in the city too. So it's really different, whatever city you're in, based on that city's needs. And finally, there is one course that you're going to take that's specific to Veritas. If you do a semester program, you choose between a comparative religions course or an international mission service learning practicum, which means you just get you get credit on your transcript for the mission work that you're already doing in the city. So if you do a semester program, you choose between one of those two. If you do a summer program, you actually just get a 1 credit missions practicum credit. Because those are shorter, you don't have time to take the full comparative religions course, and you're volunteering for less hours, which is why it's only 1 credit as opposed to the semester being 3. We do have syllabi for those too if you need them. Just shoot me an email, which is at the end of the slide, and we're happy to get them for you. Okay. So we want to talk briefly about our programs in Costa Rica. So we've highlighted San Jose, Costa Rica, where you can take classes at the Universidad Veritas. Same name, completely different organization. We are not the Universidad Veritas, it's just a really cool name and we both have it. So that can confuse students sometimes. Sometimes they think it's our university, I wish. It's not. But like I said, you're doing, a lot of students there participate in anti-sex trafficking ministry, or they are working in an orphanage called Casa de Pan. They're on site. This program is really good for, let me see, it has a lot of environmental studies, some healthcare coursework, really good for liberal arts and Spanish language. That is by no means the exhaustive list. Our courses are online. You can see more, but those are some of the top majors that like to go to San Jose. You live in a homestay while you're there, which also means a lot of your meals are included. And so it even saves you more money, like living in the homestay. I'm going to go through these kind of briefly because we only scheduled 30 minutes for this, and I'm realizing we're 20 minutes in. So let's see here. We'll take questions at the end too, but let's see. Oh, wrong screen. Then we have Prague. We actually have 2 different universities that you can choose from in Prague. So we work with Charles University there and the University of Economics. So Charles is really good for history and culture and politics, whereas the University of Economics is very good for economics, go figure, and international business as well. Again, it's not limited to those. You would actually be living in a dorm at one of those universities. And the mission work there, like I mentioned earlier, there's refugee ministry that students are working with, youth ministry, homeless outreach, English language, sports ministry, all sorts of stuff. So on our website is a lot more information about the mission work while you're there too. So let's go ahead and go to the next one, where we have Sevilla. The signature program is actually for our ISA Study Center in Sevilla. So this is a little different model. Instead of being at a local university, you're actually at a study center that's run by ISA. So you're only taking classes with other students who are studying abroad from the US on the ISA program. That means that they're smaller courses, which some students really like because that means you get more professor time and things like that. The transcript does come from the Universidad de Salamanca though, so it is an official vetted course. It's just taught at our study center instead of a local university. That means that it is really good for some of the types of programs we have there are international studies, business, and Spanish language, as well as education is also, like I mentioned, a good location for, or Sevilla is a good location for. The primary mission work there is working at a English language program run through the church that our mission mentors are a part of. And then finally, let's see, we have Paris. So in Paris, we also are highlighting 2 universities. It's the Institut Catholique. I did not ever learn French, so if you are French speaking and I butchered that, I'm so sorry. As well as the Sorbonne too. So in both those are local universities. So going back to the on-campus model, different than Spain. You could do, at the Catholic, you could take French language, liberal arts, and then at the Sorbonne, it's really good for French language and culture. They both have lots of classes at them. These, you would be in a homestay as well. So everything's a homestay except for Prague, which is the dorms. The mission work, like I said, is working with refugee populations from Senegal as well. Our mission mentors there actually are IMB missionaries, so they're part of the International Mission Board, and they speak fluent Wolof. They're from the U.S., but they're ministering to populations from Senegal. So then, what's included? This is a list of all that's included. You know, I mentioned before the mission work, the advising process. We have an emergency phone that you can call 24 hours. You get insurance. We'll pick you up at the airport, your tuition at the host university. Some meals, if you're in a homestay, some of your meals are included. If you're in Prague, meals are not included because it's the dorm. Like I said, we have on-site staff, excursions. What's not included is the airfare there and back, the passport cost, some meals or all meals if you're in Prague, and spending money in general. So let's talk funding for a second, and I'm sorry I'm going through this kind of quickly. 30 minutes goes by really fast, so note Garrett will want to extend that for any future ones. So let's talk funding. Like I mentioned, you can use your FAFSA financial aid. In fact, 50% of our students use that to study abroad, and 75% of students actually receive a grant, scholarship, or a discount from ISA. The good news is you all would receive an automatic $200 off of your program just for being CBU students, because we have an affiliation agreement with CBU. So there's $200 off the top, which is really exciting. And then, like I said, we have scholarships through ISA specifically that you can also apply for too, that are on our website. So then what's next? This is mine and Garrett's contact info. I can actually email out these slides afterwards. I didn't say that, but I can do that. That way y'all have it and know where to find us. But I want to leave the last few minutes. Garrett has some slides on here too that I want to let him go over as well.
Thanks, Aley. So one thing Aley didn't touch on, when I studied abroad, I didn't go through, a partner organization like ISA-Veritas, and my university was just, they didn't want me going to the Middle East, right? So I ended up going anyways. I made it to the airport, didn't speak the language, had to figure out how to get to my university. No one was there to meet me. When I made it to the university, I didn't know where my dorms were. Ended up eventually figuring that out. And I remember, you think it's like the Middle East is going to be hot, right? It was really cold at night, and they never gave me any blankets. I remember the faucet was like, when I turned it on, it was just brown water. So I'm not trying to scare you guys, but just an example of how awesome it is to work with an organization like ISA-Veritas. They really take care of you. You're still gonna have that independence traveling, and you're not gonna have my experience where I had like no support. I was all having to figure it out on my own in another country. So you'll still have that independence to be able to travel, but just having some of that support. They have staff on the ground. They can help pick you up from the airport. If there's an emergency, they're there for you. They're gonna be at that hospital with you. That's really amazing to have that. So just my little pitch of how cool it is to work with ISA and work with Aley. So on the CBU side of things, basically what you guys should be aware of, if you're a freshman, you basically have to spend a year at CBU before you can study abroad. So if you're a freshman, and I won't make anyone raise their hands or anything, you could be working on the application process while you're a freshman, and you could be planning for study abroad, but you just have to wait a year. If you're a transfer, you basically have to spend one semester at CBU, and we also check that you're in good standing with student services, that you are in good standing with financial aid. We want to make sure that you guys are going to have a great experience. And then the final thing is that you meet the GPA requirement. So typically it's like a 2.5. It's not super hard to meet, and they're pretty flexible with you. But that's just the requirements you guys should be aware of. So the money aspect, we talked about financial aid. So you can use any of your government aid. That's Pell Grants, Cal Grants, student loans. Some students have taken out like private loans, but you can't use your institutional aid. So think about any of the scholarships you get from CBU, those wouldn't apply. Now the exception is if you're going with us on our Japan program, because it's an exchange program and it's direct with another university. So that's a little bit different. So if you guys have questions about Japan, that's a different model. You'd basically still be paying CBU and get all those scholarships. But for Our other programs, basically the model is, this is the model, and there are some good parts, some good aspects of that, which I'll go over in a bit. But as far as like payments and how that works, that's all done through CBU, and then we're basically working with ISA and your host university abroad and basically handling it that way. So I won't go into this too much, but just to give you guys kind of like a snapshot of what it costs at CBU. This was 2018, 2019. I'm sure it's gone up. You can see that there's a number at the bottom that's like, oh, that kind of makes me cringe. But you know, college is expensive, right? Aley, would you go to the next slide? Well, I kind of did a cost comparison to just give you guys an idea of what it can cost to study abroad. And basically what I will say is if you look at some of these countries, typically a semester can actually be a lot less than CBU. So interestingly enough, just to give you guys a sidebar story, we've had students that didn't want to come back because they're like, oh, it's so affordable here. You know, I can live here forever. There's some places that will basically be the same, about the same, and other places that are less. I also did a cost of living comparison. So you can see, for instance, if you're looking at Costa Rica, it's a lot less than Riverside, California. If you want to go out to eat, it's going to be a lot cheaper. If you want to rent a apartment, that's going to be a lot cheaper. And going to the university there is going to be a lot less than CBU. And so there's kind of like a list you can go down to. Basically, there's only 2 locations that are comparable, or maybe a little bit more, and that's France and Italy. And that's because it's very expensive to live in those big cities, you know, living in Rome or Paris. They're fairly large cities and they have a lot of demand, you know. So just to give you guys an idea. So if you guys, basically what I would encourage you guys, if you can afford CBU, most likely you can afford a semester abroad. And if anything, it might be more affordable. Yeah. So our typical deadlines for spring, summer, and fall, these can change, but CBU typically has a deadline of October 10th for spring, March 10th for summer, and April 1st for fall. So before that deadline, basically what you guys are going to do, if you are interested, you do want to explore this a little bit more, do some research, really find out what program you're leaning towards or what location you're leaning towards. And after that, you can come schedule a meeting with us. So you can send me an email. You can go on our website and schedule something through there. I would say drop by, but most people aren't on campus, so it's probably easier to email. And then after meeting with me, we basically, I'll encourage you guys to go to a meeting with academic advising, go over the courses you're going to take. We've had some students ask about, hey, if I'm going to take courses abroad, are they going to transfer? We actually try to make sure that that happens before you even go abroad. So as part of our process, you're meeting with academic advising, you're meeting with your department dean, your chair, and they're basically looking at the courses and giving you kind of some insight into whether that's going to transfer. But the final step is they send that to the registrar's office, and the registrar's office comes back with information on whether that's going to transfer and what it's going to look like. So you guys are going to know that before you even go. We don't want you guys to go like abroad blind and basically hope that your classes will come back. No, we're definitely straightening that out ahead of time. This is all done online, the CBU part of it. So yes, the meeting with us or meeting with academic advising, that's through like a Zoom, right, or WebEx, but the majority of the application, you just are filling out online forms. So it's actually pretty quick. But yeah, so those are like the initial steps I would recommend. Definitely meet with us. Am I missing anything else? Aley, maybe there's a couple of questions we can get into as well. I think we're at the end.
And I was going to add a couple of things on this slide just to be aware of. So you actually have 2 applications to do. You do the CBU application and you do an application through us, through ISA too. So our deadline in some cases is actually earlier than the CBU deadline. Like for example, in Paris, normally for the spring travel season, it's October 1st. So you would want to keep that in mind and make sure that you've applied to CBU even earlier than the deadline so that you have time to apply to us by our deadline. If you're looking at Costa Rica though, it's almost always like November 1st. So like, it just depends on the program. So keep that in the back of your mind, but our application is also really easy. It takes 5 minutes. There's a $95 deposit, but it's a deposit. It's like off your program price. It's not an additional fee that you would pay to us when you apply. And then, like I mentioned before, we have our advisors that help you through all the forms process once you've actually applied to us, like all of the health and safety and roommate questionnaires and like all of those types of forms too. So yeah, let's see, Garrett, is there another slide you want me to go to? Or?
Yeah, there's one final slide. Someone asked about Thursday session. So that session is actually just on different programs, different locations. This one was kind of highlighting a couple ones in Europe and Costa Rica. And by the way, so someone was asking about the Japan program. You guys can go to our website. It's calbaptist.teradata.com. You can actually get there through Inside CBU. So if you go to Inside CBU, or maybe do a Google search and say Study Abroad CBU, typically it will take you to Inside CBU, and from there you can get to this website. So this is like a typical portal most universities have for study abroad. But if you guys go to Study Abroad and Exchange, or you just click that Study Abroad picture, it will actually show a bunch of programs. And so the Japan program is AGU Exchange, I think Tokyo. It's something like that, but I can send you that link or send you the link to any programs. But basically you guys can go through resources, explore, find the ISA programs as well. And there's actually some cool videos as well to walk you through the application.
Perfect. Is that it? Did we do it?
And then I think there was maybe a couple questions that we didn't get to. So summer session and COVID-19.
Yes. So I think, let's see, Genevieve, you had sent in some questions ahead of time too that we were prepared with. So yes, one of the questions that we received was also, we know that we're at time, so if you have to jump off, you won't hurt our feelings, but we're cool to hang out for a couple more minutes. But somebody asked if you could do 2 summer sessions in 2 different locations. The answer is yes. So if you wanted to do the first half of the summer in Costa Rica and then the second half of the summer in Sevilla, totally possible. We've had students do that in the past, actually. Personally, I wish I had done that as a student because I did 2 summer sessions back to back in Peru. That being said, though, I think, Garrett, you actually had a different opinion than I did on that. So, yeah.
Yeah, not really a different opinion too much, but from what I've seen, most students end up, if they go like during a summer, they end up just wanting to travel the rest of the summer, or maybe they get like an internship abroad. So that's definitely an option. So maybe you study in Sevilla, but then you get an internship in Barcelona and spend the rest of your summer there besides traveling. So there's a lot of different options you can do with summer.
Yeah. So yeah, we can, you can kind of mix and match, but you could totally do 2 different locations if you wanted to during the summer. And then the big question that honestly should probably be a slide is, how does COVID-19 affect this? So yeah, we are currently looking at, let me answer this from an ISA standpoint. That's not to speak to programs at CBU that are outside of ISA though. We ended up not running any of our fall programs just because of COVID-19. Our spring programs are still open. And we are currently evaluating each spring program and how they will run. We have a health and safety team that's looking at everything under the sun. So how close are the desks to each other in the classroom? Is it 1 person per room instead of 2? And so we're evaluating all that to make sure we're not going to send you abroad until it's safe to do so. One of the questions was, if the program doesn't run because of COVID, will you get a full refund? From ISA, yes. If we cancel the program before it starts and we cancel it, then you get a full refund. If you decide to back out of it, that's a different story. But if we cancel it, yep, full refund. The only caveat to that is if it cancels once the program's already started. So for those that were abroad this spring, that was the case, where everyone had to come home. It wasn't a full refund because some of the program had already run, so it was a partial refund. But yeah, so we're looking at all that. We have a full-time team for health and safety, and we are watching all of the State Department warnings, everything like that, and will not run a program if it's not as safe as possible to send you abroad. My one little word of warning with that, especially if you're looking at going this spring or one of the really upcoming semesters, is just kind of expectation setting that study abroad might look a little bit different than what you've seen friends or family members do in the past. One of the biggest examples that I can give is a lot of our students who go to Europe like to spend every weekend going to somewhere new. So you might study abroad in Prague, but you're going to Barcelona one weekend and Scotland the next. That might look different because of border closings, because of safety. So it really is just going to depend on what we end up doing as far as what rules are put in place for students, what borders do. So that's my word of warning, is just to kind of check expectations and have flexibility going forward, that just depending on what that area looks like, it might look a little different than what you've seen in the past.